All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Oozle Media webinar. It's 2020. Is blogging still a thing? And we get this question a lot when we work with clients and we describe to them some of our marketing strategies and we bring up that we are going to be writing blogs. And I sometimes see a lot of surprise from clients who are like, "Oh man, blogging, that feels like a 2010 marketing tactic, or wasn't that big a few years ago, but it like doesn't really matter as much now." And so we want to answer that question and dispel some of the myths around blogging and really content creation in general. So, I mean, when we think about, um, it's 2020, is blogging still a thing? The short answer is yes. And the longer answer, we're going to go over the course of this presentation. So, one of the things that we have to start with is there's a little bit of semantics, some vocabulary that I want to review with you. And it's specifically content versus copy. Uh, we talk a lot about website copy. What does the copy on your website look like? How does it read? Does it use the right keywords? And I tend to think of copy as like the general way you would describe what your business does and the most important points of your business, no matter who was reading that copy. And so it's like anyone that comes to your website is going to read this copy and it's going to be helpful and they're going to get good information. Um, Content, I tend to think of as more like how you package that copy, and content usually comes with a lot more context as well. So, for example, if you're a plumbing company or like an HVAC company, um, you would have like a page on your website that talks about water heaters in general. Here are what water heaters do, install questions, stuff like that. And that is the website copy you would have regarding that product or that service. Content around water heaters, maybe you would tailor something that was specific to water heaters in a new home, or what to do if you live in a home that is 20 plus years old and what you need to know about water heaters. That content would take information from the copy and package it and give it context for a specific persona. And the other thing is that even though we are going to focus a little bit more on blogging, I do think we need to acknowledge that content is really about creating marketing assets. So this could be a blog, it could be a video, it could be an infographic, it could come in the form of an email. Again, think of content as information, solutions, answers that your business is providing, and that it's packaged in different ways. And it's more flexible than your website copy. So I think that that's really where we see the power of blogging. Is a blog platform allows a company or a business or a school to create different kinds of content that answers different questions for all the types of people who are researching or considering buying for them. And there's some really powerful stats. I mean, I think all of us know, and we can see this in our own buying habits. We live in a world where we can go to Google and get answers to our questions very quickly. And typically, especially when we're making larger purchases, we want to research, we want to understand our options, we want to think through a couple things, and there's always going to be some roadblock, some um, mountain that we have to overcome before we're willing to spend our dollars. And that's why statistics like this are not surprising. people interacting with content before engaging with an admissions person or one of your salespeople, they are trying to get answers that are enough to make them feel comfortable having a conversation with you. And I think that, oh, I'm just sorry, let me go back really quick. I think that that's why, again, we see some of these stats that companies with blogs that have content do get more leads, because they are providing a way to overcome that mountain of uncertainty or doubt before someone's really willing or ready to talk, again, with like a salesperson or get more serious in the buying process. And a lot of the things that I've heard from people before is like, oh, well, my competitors don't have a blog, or, I don't think anyone in my industry is doing this. And I tend to err more in the realm of, if your competitors are not blogging and they aren't creating content that you can see, that's a great opportunity for you to come in and take more market share and take more leads. I think the other thing that I hear is, well, everyone has a blog, but it's kind of like sporadic and we don't really pay that much attention to it. And we're going to get into later more the reasons why you might be blogging and it might not be working. But if your competitors are blogging, or you do see others in your industry blogging, pay attention and think about what kind of impact that might be having on their conversion rates and on their sales and ultimately their bottom line. So one of the things that I think we need to think about is taking a step back and looking at Google. And we're going to focus on Google because like 90% of users, when they go to a search engine, are using Google. And we have to understand why creating content is so important for Google. I've spoken with so many small business owners and medium-sized business owners and even large corporations, right? They know that Google has the power to impact their business. And I think especially for small business owners, Google gives you the opportunity to really play against some of the bigger players that maybe in the past you felt like you couldn't compete with. Because let's think about how Google works. Google's job, and the reason why people love Google so much, is because it provides information for people in the form of choices. You type in a question, you type in a query, and Google says, I have done a quick scrub of the internet, and here are all the people that are providing some answer, some solution to this problem that you seem to be having, or this thing that you're curious about. Google does not hire its own private writing team to answer every single question in the world. They are completely the vessel for information that's being provided by trusted experts. So Google relies on understanding, okay, is somebody providing good information? Are they answering questions? Do people seem to be clicking on their information more than this other option that I'm showing higher than them? And that's really how Google gets the trust signals and decides what they put at the top of the page. And so good information, trusted information, ranks higher in search results. And we know, and again, I don't think this is news to anyone, that there's kind of this old joke in the digital marketing world of, if you needed to hide something where nobody could find it forever, you would put it on page 2 of Google. We all know that that first page is really where you want to show up, and specifically in one of the top 3 spots, because that's where you're getting the most clicks, the most action. What we've seen is if you can get into sort of that top 7 and start really optimizing your content, you have a shot at getting into that top 3 spot. And that's really where you want to live. So the idea here is that more content, more blog posts, think about this, you're providing more information to Google, specifically for Google to give to users and searchers who are asking about things related to your company, your business. So every piece of content that you're writing that Google sees as a way to answer someone's question or as something that they can provide to someone, that is opening up a path to your website. And every time you create that piece of content, you are opening up more chances for Google to serve people that content, which then opens up that path and gets you more traffic to your website, right? We always say your website is Rome, all roads should lead to Rome. Well, if you only have 2 roads out in the world, someone's going to have to find one of those 2 roads and hopefully make it to your website. If you have 30 roads, if you have 40 roads, if you're showing up for 40 search queries to get people to your website versus somebody who's only showing up for 3, you have more traffic coming to your website, which is more opportunity for people to interact with your brand, get to know you, start the sales process, and that comes through filling out the forms or calling, following the calls to action on your website, and that should result in more sales. So again, a common thing that we hear is, look, we tried blogging, it didn't work. And I want to run through a couple reasons why we've seen, blogging, quote unquote, not work for companies. The first one I want to touch on is a huge one for me. It's a terrible website. Not all websites are created equal. And I think especially now with the uptick we've seen with people being at home, really the internet became our connection to the world, and websites truly became the home base for so many companies. And I just cringe a bit to think about how many people hadn't done a really deep dive on the user experience on their website, how fast things were loading, how easy things were to find, what truly was the user experience, to see if anyone even wanted to stay and interact with their website long enough to engage with their blog or continue to read other content pieces. So the first one that I see sometimes right off the bat is just like, whoa, this website is not user friendly, it's not mobile friendly, it's really slow, or just like even the font is too small or it's too hard to read. Like I've seen some people have like black backgrounds with white text, which can be totally fine if it's done right. But if you like amplify that with smaller text or things that again show up funky on a mobile phone, stuff that looks cool on desktop may just not be translating. And again, people may just not be making it past some of the bad user experiences on your website long enough to get to your content. So the other issue that we see is that blogs are not optimized for search. Just because you put a blog on your website does not mean that it's going to show up automatically in search results and really be on Google's radar in the way that you want it to, right? Like again, everybody's kind of aiming for page 1. And if your blogs aren't making it there, a lot of times what we see is they're not following Google guidelines and sending the signals technically to Google that help them see the content, understand what it's about, and know that they should be giving it to people as a possible source of information or as an answer to a question. The other thing that we see is like topics were not strategic. Again, I think a lot of people treat their blogs in different ways. I've seen companies put up quote unquote blog posts that literally were just like one graphic, maybe promoting a monthly special or something like that, that's not really a good use of the blog. Sometimes I see topics that are just not helpful, like they're too fluffy, or they're too specific only to one time, and then no other information on the blog is worth engaging with. And this kind of bleeds into the blogs are not optimized for search either. Like, again, I just want to quickly go back to that. I've seen people who, blog posts, treating blog posts like they're only a paragraph long. That's not really a blog post. That's not really how that platform should be used. And then when we get into topics, if you're just kind of randomly shooting out ideas or things, again, it's not that the blog may not be helpful or relevant to a small group of people. Is this the topic that is helpful to the right group of people, targets the customers that we actually want, answers the questions that they're actually asking? A lot of times when we talk with companies, we'll say something like, so how many of your blogs are based on like keyword research or an understanding of your customer journey? And a lot of it is just kind of like, we just thought this would be a good topic. We just felt like it would be a good topic. Sometimes you will get it right, because you do know the psychology of like why people want your business or why they would want to come to your school. And you are speaking with customers. So I'm not saying that you'll always get it wrong. I've just seen people miss out on opportunity and then quote blame it on like blogging not working because they weren't using the platform and the topics that they were writing about as like a holistic marketing strategy. And then the other one is sometimes there is a misunderstanding of the customer journey where we see businesses putting up blog topics that kind of miss the mark or is like a misinterpretation of what somebody's actually asking or what they're looking for. Or sometimes we see a blog that only has what we call top of funnel content. So it's got a lot of fluff, a lot of things that attract people in, but then it's missing content that pulls them further down the sales pipeline and doesn't have like a hard call to action or the next piece of content that helps answer the next question that somebody is really asking and looking for, again, before they're ready to talk with or engage with somebody on your sales side. And then the last one that I see most commonly is that blogs were not promoted. So, and let's again substitute the word blog for content because this is applicable to any of your marketing assets. If you're completely relying on people going to Google and searching for this topic, you're going to have some success because there will always be a certain demand for that. There will always be a certain market share that is looking for that, but you're going to be much better off if you're actively taking that content, those blogs, and getting them out in front of people and saying, hey, I don't know if this occurred to you, but this might be really important in your life right now. Or, hey, just wanted to pop up and say that maybe this solution would be really helpful to you. Or it's the way that ads and social media play into blogging is another part that we can't discount. And again, you can't just put up a blog and assume that it's going to rank on the first page of a query that gets tons of searches and is just going to open up the floodgates for you. And so these are a list of the most common things that we see when we hear people say, look, we tried blogging, it didn't work. Can you go look at my blog? Can you go look at my website and tell me why this isn't working for me? Okay, so just another sort of quick anecdote that I want to go through before I jump into this template right here is we have worked with some companies that have done extensive blogging, like hundreds of blog posts on their website. And there are two things that I want to say about that. True story, we did work with a school that had invested again in in hundreds of blog posts. I think it was almost 300, maybe even more than 300. And when we did a deep dive into their analytics and their Google Search Console, we found that 18 of those blog posts were getting traffic. And that was really eye-opening. And honestly, it was just kind of like, oh, dang it. This moment of how much time and money, energy was spent in creating 300 blogs over, X amount of years, only to find out that 18 of them were driving traffic. And it wasn't that those 300 blogs were a waste. I think there were other good topics, other good articles within that 300 that should have been working, but weren't, because they were missing some of those pieces that I talked about as far as optimization, or again, strategically placing them and linking them together. And so I want to share something that I think every business, I'm going to use the example of a beauty school right now, but you could tailor this to be like services, products, things like that. This is what we call at Oozle a content map. And basically what it's trying to do is show you where there are gaps in your content. Because again, I think creating content, creating blogs is important. And sometimes we do see people creating a large amount of it, but they're not creating the right content. And I would rather be a business that has 15 to 20 of the right pieces of content than a business that has spent a lot of time and energy creating 100 pieces of content and sort of crossing their fingers that they got the most important ones done. So the way that I want you to think of your content map as you make it for your business is on the vertical side, list your products, programs, services, basically the things you are trying to sell. And again, we're using the example of a beauty school. So I've got a couple beauty school programs over here: cosmetology, aesthetics, barbering. And then on the horizontal at the top, write out the most common questions that come up around your products, your programs, your services. So at the top here, I've listed things like what careers can come with these programs. And, we all know that people really, when they're getting education, their end goal is to change their path, to change their job, their career. So telling them what the end goal will be is very important, or giving them inspiration and ideas of where they could end up is very important. And then underneath, so we've got the question, what careers, up here. And then underneath each of these programs, we've got a form of which this content could take. So have you mentioned what careers someone could have in cosmetology in your website copy? So likely if you're a beauty school, you have a cosmetology program page. Is there any blurb on there about, again, what is the end goal, where someone could potentially end up, to give them that inspiration that, oh yeah, that's why I'm doing this. That's why I would invest in this. Do you have a blog or multiple blogs that answer and address this question? And again, it's not that you just need one, but you should have something. So if you don't have a blog that's something like 5 careers you can have with a cosmetology license, or like, careers that are career paths our alumni have taken after they graduated from our cosmetology program, there's a gap there. And what you want is to start filling in the gap of answering this question as it relates to this program, product, or service, and doing it in all of these different forms. Do you have an email about this that goes out to people who signed up for a form but haven't quite converted into students? Delivering them this blog via email and having some email copy to intrigue them to go read that blog is, again, answering a key question and helping you bring them down the sales funnel. Video, do you have this in video form? Have you promoted it on social? Have you done an Instagram or a Facebook story? You know, is this important enough that it should be a pinned highlight on your Instagram story? Like, is this a question? Is this a topic that is so prevalent and so important that it should live in a very obvious permanent place on your Instagram profile? Do you have an infographic? And honestly, these are just some of the forms content could take. Like, this list could go bigger depending on other marketing assets you want to create. What you're trying to do here is really say confidently, for the products and the services and the programs I'm trying to promote or sell, and all the different forms my content could come in, and all the questions that feel most important for someone. Do I have a piece of content that answers this, and does it come in various forms? And is it in multiple places? Is it on my website copy? Is it in a blog? Is it in an email? Is it on my social media? And this map will start to help you understand, okay, this is the topic that I actually need to write about. This is the thing that I have a gap in the sales pipeline of answering some of these questions that, you know, I need to get that made and in the right place. And then again, going back to what I said a little bit earlier, you're going to want to think about the personas that you're trying to target and how some of these questions, like what would you change about how you phrase this answer depending on the person asking it. So for example, if I'm a beauty school and I have somebody who is about to graduate high school and I want to tell them, think about all the cool careers you could have in the like with a cosmetology license. The way I answer or promote what careers they have might be different from somebody who's a little bit older, has worked in like a different career, a different industry for a while, and decides that they want to change careers, and so they're going to go back to school. So maybe, you know, for my high school student, I might really focus on the fashion industry, the film industry. And then maybe for somebody who has spent more time in a career and is older, what I might focus on as far as what careers you could have is more of the entrepreneurial side of like, hey, you could open a salon, you could be your own business, you could work in marketing for a beauty brand, things like that. So you do want to make sure that along with these questions, you're answering them, you're also creating multiple pieces of content that answer them differently based on the person who might be asking that question. Because the more relevant and contextual the content is to them, the more of an impact that it's going to have. So here are some blogging trends that we're seeing for 2020. We, within our agency, are going to be putting a heavy emphasis on videos. I think that we've done, as an agency, a really good job of creating and continuing to create written content, blog content for our clients. And now what we know is, you know, obviously Google owns YouTube. Videos are really starting to show up in a lot of search queries. And again, you want to package your content and these answers to questions in different ways anyway, because some people like to read, but some people like to watch a video. Some people like to listen. Some people just want like an infographic that is very visual and that they can absorb. But of course, I think the big one coming up with social media showing up in search rankings is video. We are seeing a lot more traffic and a lot more clicks for people who are getting their videos ranking. Of course, user intent. You know, this is where we talk about getting to know the different personas. Google is trying to do that too. Google is really wants to know so much about people. And this is, you know, the whole thing about, for better or worse, they have a ton of data on us and they're tracking what we're searching because they want to understand why. Why is this person searching it? What are they trying to do? What are their intentions here? Flip your mindset to that as well. You know, who are the people who tend to buy my products, my service, enroll in my school? what are the things that they might be typing into Google? What are the questions that ultimately should lead them to my school or to my business? And have I answered those questions? Have I figured out what their intentions are? And have I made it easy for them to find me? And then again, just visuals within your blogs. A wall of text can be daunting for people. I'm really a fan of user-generated content, so being able to share photos from Instagram of interactions people have had with your business or students at your school and getting those into blogs. They're real, they're authentic, people trust them. It's social proof that you're a good business. So look at the visuals that are happening in your blog as well. And then when is it time to outsource blogging? So again, most of the companies and clients that we work with at some point tried to do blogging themselves. You know, they made a pretty good effort to do some sort of content strategy, and they just feel like it didn't net their return on time and investment that they made. If you feel that way, I think that it's time to call an expert, because this does work. Content strategy, content creation is a big part of digital marketing. And, you know, but it does take a lot of time, energy, and effort. And frankly, if you're hesitant to commit to, you know, one of your staff members blogging consistently and taking that time and doing all that research, if you don't want to do it and you're just kind of like, look, I have 50 billion other things that I have going on. Maybe you don't have the right team member. You know, we've had a lot of feedback from clients that we work with that there's just not really anyone on their team who loves to write or feels confident in their copywriting skills or their marketing writing skills. And then again, if you just feel like, look, I really want to see results. I really want to see this net something out for my business, for my school. If you've had any of those thoughts, any of those feelings, then I would say, you know, it's time to call an agency. It's time to work with somebody like Oozle Media or with Oozle. You know, give us a call. We love doing stuff like this for businesses and schools, because it's worth the investment. And I think that, you know, I always kind of have this saying rattling around in the back of my head where it's like, if you think that it's expensive to pay for an expert, pay for an amateur. And that is a lot of what we see when it comes to blogging that hasn't worked for people, is that, you know, there was kind of a simplification of what needed to be done, or a misunderstanding of how you needed to execute something to get results. And it was kind of like, you know, I was paying $15 per blog post, so it was super cheap, but I didn't see anything happen. Well, yeah, probably not, because if you're paying about $15 per blog post, you're probably not getting all the other things that still need to happen outside of just creating that blog post. So I want to be cognizant of time. I know that we said this would just be like a quick half-hour one, but if anyone has Q&A or I'm sorry, any questions, go ahead and chat those now. I'd be happy to answer anything that might come in, and if not, we'll go ahead and wrap up and get this recording up and shared out to everyone again. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Really appreciate it. Okay, so I see a question here about keyword research. Keyword research, I think, this is where we talk about like content and blogging strategy bleeding into SEO. And again, I sort of have the same thing happen where a lot of clients come to us and they say, SEO isn't working for me. Blogging isn't working for me. At some point, your SEO strategy turns into a content strategy, or a big part of it becomes your content, because again, the content is what ranks on Google and opens up the pathways to your door. So as far as keyword research, yes, you could go out and find a tutorial that shows you how to do basic keyword research. There's a lot of free tools available to help you do keyword research. I just come back to, like, if that's not something you want to become an expert in, if you don't have the time or the energy to go figure that all out, it is worth it to work with a digital marketing partner. I see another question. Will this be recorded to share? Yes, we are recording this and we will put it on our blog. We also still actively use our blog. We practice what we preach. And we'll also send it out via email, so that the recording should come to you via email. Another one, what is a great blog website to use? Okay, this is a great question. There are a lot of blogging platforms out there. We are a WordPress shop. We prefer WordPress. That is our platform of choice. We like WordPress websites that have a blog on them. We find them very easy to use. We feel like they rank really well. This was like a big, I think they've fixed it and worked on it, but a big thing when like website builders like Wix and Squarespace came out, those websites looked beautiful and did terrible with SEO. And again, I think that they've built in some good, I mean, I've seen some of the newer websites coming from there and the back end that they've updated. And so I know that they've built in a little bit more stuff to make SEO better for those, but the overwhelming amount of websites on the internet are WordPress. Google is very WordPress friendly. It knows WordPress. And I think WordPress is just very user friendly. It's pretty straightforward. It's a good content management system. So I would vote WordPress. Okay, I think those are all the questions that we have. As always, if you have additional questions, get in touch with us here at Oozle. We have a form on our website, phone numbers you can call. We want to help you out. And I will go ahead and wrap up the recording and speak to you guys soon. We'll be having another webinar this month, so watch for our email invite, and we will talk to you all soon. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.